Hello? Hopefully that has fixed it. I've just sort of rebooted all of my programs. I don't know what's up with my sound recently. Are you still getting it? Alien comm signals. Dang. God found your stream. Yes, he's very angry. Very, very angry. Uh, let's see. Hang on a second. I'll just bring up the stream and find out if I am still suffering under the unbearable weight of of horrendous sound and video, I guess. No sound? No sound? No sound. Why? What? What? I say, what? Why is there no sound? Why is there no sound? Uh, yeah, that seems to have fixed it. Okay. Wow, okay. I don't know what's happening with my microphone. Nvidia's been a pain in the ass recently, but I don't think their stock's going down, to be honest with you. Apparently, Nvidia has solved all of our water problems in our data centers. Apparently, they've come up with a way to not use so much water, so I don't think Nvidia's stock is going down. Now, they could be just lying. I got to admit, they could be just lying, but boy, did they do a good filter. We are receiving. We are... Look... God is such an a-hole. He smote my stream. This is not cool. I'm very upset. Okay, this is why I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist because God hates my stream. Tommy, thank you so much for coming. Really, really appreciate it. You're awesome. Core and Tech. It's like a loose wire. I don't know. I don't know. Like, we don't really use wires for transmission anymore. I mean, we do, but it's not the same thing. Sound issue. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. But stop the stupidity in the house. Good to see you. I did say hello to Beck, but if you didn't catch it before, hey Beck, how you doing? Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. There's a company using floating spheres in the ocean to cool data centers. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think that they came up with some sort of alternative product, like an antifreeze product, to cool the data centers. So some sort of synthetic product that doesn't use as much water. Like, it hasn't completely solved it, but there's all other issues with it as well. It's more likely Thiel. Come on now. Peter Thiel doesn't want to help anybody. That's ridiculous. Peter Thiel is more having fun meeting. Like, this stream is Peter Thiel the arsehole, because we all know the answer to that one. He's more hooking up in secret meetings with, tech bros. So if you didn't know, Peter Thiel started up, or he kind of got together a group called Dialogue, which is invite only, and it has like such subjects like why it's great to be in charge and how to start your own cult. And the most surprising thing to me as an atheist is that a member of this super secret arsehole club was Sam Harris, the neurologist and atheist and presumably guy who's talked on morality all the time. And I think it's very interesting that he's in a sort of secret club. And I guess the most worrying thing about the dialogue news, and it's not really being talked about, is that you've got people like Besant, who is the Treasury Secretary for the US, in the same secret organization as the people that they regulate. Right? They're basically the regulators being in a secret society with the richest and most powerful tech billionaires in the world, which is, I think that we've got to start talking at some point about conflict of interest, right? I feel like conflict of interest has not been brought up a lot, and it seems like it's just been thrown out of the window lately. Like, for instance, Daniel Dennett, he was amazing, Tommy, yeah. Liquid cooling systems, yes. Yeah, I gotcha. But, I don't know. I mean, it's the problem isn't that that the world doesn't have enough water. The problem is that the world doesn't have enough potable water, like drinkable water, essentially. You can run these things, but also taking the salt out of water is insanely energy intensive. So, look, I think it's good. I think it's really good that they're focused on providing some other solution that because we can't just use salt water for cooling purposes, because the salt will leave a residue that absolutely gunks up stuff. It's why you can't throw like any water in your radiator, or you shouldn't throw any water in your radiator. You really do need distilled water. If you didn't know, try not to. It's okay if you need to get somewhere, to throw for the water in your radiator. If you want to throw in normal water as an emergency, okay, but you really should flush it out with distilled, because distilled doesn't have the same stuff left behind. That's why we can't use salt water for that crap like that. The salt just gets left behind. It's terrible. It gunks everything up. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. So, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't use any. We have to use pure water. We don't. And I think sort of acknowledging that. But I think that recently that the AI boom, it's sort of been, well, how do we make this work without even thinking about the consequences of making it? Like, let's make it work and then figure out how to do it with consequence free later. That is not a good way. That has never gone well. Tangent 1 and 2 over. Yes. But today, you're right. Beck, I'm getting off topic. It's an interesting conversation. Daniel Dennett was amazing, though. Tommy, absolutely right. Yes. The Four Horsemen. Funnily enough, Jedi, my state, Western Australia, is a world leader in desalination. We are a world leader in desalination. So, like, sure, you can do desalination with any power. So it's not so much being wave powered. You would have wave powered electrical system, and then you would use that power for desalination. So, I mean, that's a renewable, sure. I'm not sure that wave power alone would cover any city's electrical grid, but I'm all in favor of renewables. I think that China has the right idea. They are putting solar panels everywhere, and it just sort of like, why aren't we? I don't know. It seems very, very... Anyway, let's move on to the Bible. So open your Bible. We're up to Genesis 43. I mean, damn, Genesis is a long book. It is long, How long is it? How long do we have to go on Genesis? Because seriously, it is. Um, like, how many chapters has this monstrosity got? I don't know. It's kind of weird. 50, 50, 50 fucking chapters. That is insane. That is insane. How much energy per kilowatt hours? Yeah, it's very energy intensive. Yes, yes. Uh huh. Yeah, no, I gotcha. I'm right there with you. Yes, very. Mm. I don't know. I'm personally a fan of solar. Like, why Australia? If there's any place that's going to have solar, dang, Australia is sleeping on solar, and I don't know why. It's wild. 7 days long. It's 40 days and nights. That's exactly what it is. But okay, so open your Bibles, and today we're going into Genesis 43 to see if God is the arsehole. Now, as per usual, I will read out the Reddit post from Yahweh, um, to get his side of the story, to get his Reddit post, as it were. And then I will be putting up a poll. You can vote on that, and I'll go through the comments, and maybe I'll talk a bit more about what I think about the current trend of data center / AI. Look, yeah, I'll cover that when I get to it. All right, I'm not going off on another tangent. You people have distracted me enough. I blame you, chat. It's all your fault. I blame you. Just recently though, just on another tangent, I was on Bad Science Sunday the other day. And Maya and Dr. Kip told me that the episode was more like one of my shows than theirs. And I didn't mean for that to happen, and I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what I'm doing that's so different than anybody else. Do let me know. What the hell am I doing that's different? Okay, just let me know, because holy shit, they basically like, yeah, that seemed like a Mark Reed episode, and I'm like, how was that different? I thought they did not exactly, obviously they have their own show, but I thought they did the same thing that I did. Apparently not. Apparently not. I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. Apparently I've got a style to my show, unbeknownst to me. I don't know how that happened. Is that a thing? Am I doing it wrong? Look, I'd be prepared to believe I'm doing YouTube wrong, like seriously. I mean, I couldn't even get my mic working today, so, it's an absolute disaster from my side. So, please, if you do like it, if you don't like it, let me know. I might not be able to change it, but I do appreciate any feedback I'm given. But am I the arsehole for forcing a desperate family to return to a country for food? Yeah, probably. Probably. Yeah, that seems a bit unhinged. A bit unhinged. I think sort of sending a family, I mean, people like stability, right? Like, stability is one of those things that you don't miss it until you don't have it. People are sort of, well, it's a boring life. There is an old Chinese proverb that's, may you live in interesting times. And it just means that anytime something like boring lives are underrated. Like, you don't appreciate a boring life until yours gets very, very interesting, and then a boring life does have its appeal. I think that there's a sort of mix. I think we need a certain level of challenge for our lives to be meaningful, but I think there's definitely a limit to that. So this family had been caught in the midst of a famine and had gone to Egypt to get food. We did this last week with Joseph. They went to Joseph, and Joseph basically took one of their brothers hostage. Yeah, Joseph took a brother hostage and then demanded they come back with their younger brother to do a hostage swap, basically. Or he didn't say a hostage swap, but he demanded they return with their younger brother. Which is, like, this is the thing. All right, so another tangent, but Joseph is largely seen in the Christian and community as a good guy. He's one of the good guys. I'm not saying that, but also I'm not seeing God sitting there watching his guy going, yeah, that seems fine. That seems normal. However, this brother that had been sold into slavery hid his identity. Well, he didn't hide his identity. It's just all throughout the Bible, the brothers don't realize that this Egyptian they're talking to is the brother they sold into slavery, which is kind of weird, but hey, it had been a long time. Maybe he sort of had, he'd grown up. Maybe his dialect changed, his accent changed. Maybe he'd gone native. I don't know. He hid his identity and demanded to bring back the youngest son, Benjamin. The family did not want to go back, but eventually they ran out of grain they had brought back from Egypt, and they desperately needed to go back for more food. Yeah. Like, why God sent this famine? I have no idea. Like, no idea. It's just, apparently, that's a thing he likes doing occasionally. It happened to their father, Jacob's father, Isaac. It happened to Isaac's father, Abraham, always with the famines. And they always go to Egypt. Fair enough. Jacob wanted his sons to go back, but did not want to send his beloved son with him. So his beloved son was Benjamin. He's the one that Jacob... Like, he doesn't really care that much about his other sons, which maybe is why they were so sort of messed up. He really only cares about Benjamin. From his perspective, this demand was unbearable, as he had already believed he lost Joseph. That was Joseph doing it, by the way. Simeon was still being held in Egypt as a hostage. Benjamin was the last surviving son of Rachel, the wife Jacob had loved most. Yes, so if you remember, Jacob had two wives, Leah and Rachel. Leah was the one he didn't care for that much, but was tricked into marrying by Leah's father. Yeah. Letting Benjamin go felt like gambling with the last piece of his emotional stability. Yes. I don't know how, but yes. He did not want to let Eventually, Judah confronted the reality of the situation. Though Judah was the origin of the tribe of Judah, he was, I think, the fourth son or something around there. He certainly wasn't the first. I think Simeon was the oldest one. He argued that without Benjamin, they were all doomed anyway, so he personally guaranteed Benjamin's safety and took responsibility for bringing him home. Faced with starvation, Jacob finally gave in, but he was crushed by the decision. Now, don't forget, Jacob has no idea that Joseph is alive, had nothing to do with Joseph being sold into slavery, and yet Joseph, the son, is tormenting his father. Sort of secondhand. Oh, yeah, it's Victoria. Hey, Victoria. Sorry it was me. Oh, that's okay. Hey, look, I totally cool. It's a revelation to me. It's very strange. I don't know. Look, I'll talk about it later. Yeah, so Jacob's basically being tormented by his son that he is already grieving over losing, thinking him dead, for absolutely no reason. Like, for what reason is Joseph doing this? And this is the good guy in the Bible. This is the epitome of Old Testament decent person. Who knows? He sent gifts with his son to appease the man holding his son in Egypt. Spoiler alert, it's his son holding his son in Egypt. Balm, honey, spices, nuts, and double the money that appeared in the son's sacks. So if you don't know, Joseph put money into the son's sacks, sort of smuggled in some cash, and that freaked out the sons because they thought, oh, the guy in Egypt will think we have stolen it. Spoiler alert, that's exactly what he wants to do. He hoped they would show mercy, but clearly thought he would lose his youngest son. Yeah, I can totally understand where Jacob's coming from. Like, he thinks he's lost at least two sons and possibly a third one's going to be killed. It's not great. I can understand why he is upset. When the brothers arrived in Egypt with Benjamin, Joseph saw them and instructed his servants to bring them into his house for a meal. Instead of feeling relief, however, the brothers panicked as they assumed they'd be brought in because of the returned money and feared they were about to be accused, enslaved, or attacked. Yeah, so they're freaking out, right? Let's face it, they're freaking out going, They tried to explain the returned money immediately, but the Joseph's steward reassured them and returned Simeon to them. So they returned the hostage. There you go. There you go. The situation was improving as Simeon was released, no accusations were made, and they've been welcomed into Joseph's home. However, the brothers were still afraid, as they still did not know that Joseph was their long-lost brother. When I say lost, you know, I don't think you can have a long-lost relative when they sell them into slavery. I think it's deliberately cast away at that point. But yeah, I mean, it was their long-lost brother. At this point, Joseph had seen their fear, their desperation, their guilt, and he had seen Jacob's family brought to the edge of famine and loss. He had every opportunity to end the emotional strain and tell them who he was, but he did not. And this is the good guy of the Bible. So the main complaint I had gotten is that I could have easily ended the famine, reassured the brothers that they were safe, or even allowed the family to know that the brother was their kin, and allowed them to reunite without the fear and terror of imprisonment or execution. Was I wrong for allowing this to go on for so long? So the question is, was God the arsehole for not stepping in and saying, hey, that's your long-lost brother, and reconciling the brothers immediately? Does that make him a complete a-hole? I want to know. And I do want to know why you think it's the case, not just whether it is or not. I am really interested. I personally, just my opinion, but I think that anybody sort of putting people through this kind of trauma, it's not great. It is not great. Was God wrong for allowing Joseph to um, to I don't know, torment his brothers? You know, there is a saying, right? And that saying is like, the best revenge is a good life. You know, like the best revenge on people is getting on with your own life and, you know, letting them wallow in their misery, kind of thing. This to me seems like petty revenge. You know, it seems like, okay, they sold, like, don't get me wrong, selling someone to slavery is a pretty horrible thing to do. However, you know, his father didn't do that, right? His father didn't do that. His father is sort of blameless in all of this. So I can't help but feel that, you know, like what did he do wrong? He's currently sitting at home wondering whether all of his sons are going to come home or not, and, you know, freaking out. Why would you do that to your father? Like, that's not a great thing to do. I don't know why he's doing that, but apparently it's a thing. Oh, there was something I forgot as well, and that is there is a a fundraising going on for Miranda. Miranda is a great person. Miranda Rensberger. She does drop into the chat occasionally. She is a really good member of the community, and there is a fundraising to try and help her, as she has had some medical bills, and we have gotten really far through the fundraising. I will throw that in chat, and I will pin it. Just we're trying to get some help for her, and any kind of help is vastly appreciated. Anything at all. So really appreciated, everybody. Thank you so much. I know that a lot of the community have already come together and tried to help Miranda as much as possible. I hope for a country where you are you have a social safety net where people aren't bankrupted by simply getting ill, something beyond their control. Speaking of beyond their control, Jacob the father, this, you know, what he did was beyond his control, and I believe, you know, the brothers, you know, I don't know whether you should be taking revenge on them, kind of thing. I really don't know. I really don't know. it seems really odd that you're taking revenge on your brothers for something they did when you were children. But you know, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I maybe I have my own style. Look, I think that a lot of people are sort of have told me to do this, that, or the other to improve my show and stuff. I appreciate the feedback. I may or may not follow it. I think that the worst thing you can possibly do on any platform is pretend, like sort of copy somebody else or try to be somebody else. I think that sort of when you just emulate or just try to copy somebody else, you're just being a second rate them instead of a first rate you. But people told me to change my accent, and I don't think I can do that even if I wanted to, and I don't really want to. So hey, if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. It was a great show. Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate it. It was great. Yeah, I had a blast. I had an absolute blast. Seemed like a regular show there. Oh, okay. All right. Hey, that's cool. I didn't notice either. So, you know. Hello, perps. Good to see you, Aunt Jer. I have finally found vegan creamsicles. Wow. What are they made out of? Like soy milk or something? I don't know. I don't know. Jojo was a shyster? Well, I mean, this entire family is Beck. That's the thing that surprised me most. The entire family is just like they're basic. You know, I feel like they're sort of you know, they're almost carnies. You know, the stereotype, and I don't want to stereotype about carnies, but you know, the stereotype that they're all shysters and inbred. You know what I mean? Like, these people are so inbred, it's ridiculous. And I'm not making that up. According to the story, the entire family is. It's wild. So they're like a southern Bayou family that's just ripping people off and, you know, breeding with one another. It's absolutely like, you know, marrying their cousins. It's absolutely ridiculous. She met her most conservative goal? Yeah. I find your British accent, you know how that makes me feel, all right? You know how that makes me feel. I don't look the British. Look, nobody likes the British. Okay, nobody likes not even the British like the British. Okay, that's something I've noticed. Hey, did you hear that the PM of England has resigned? That's interesting. They've had like 7 prime ministers in 6 years. It's pretty wild. 40 degrees is great if it's real. Yeah, I mean, 40 degrees isn't uncommon around here. I'm just going through the comments, seeing if I missed anything. Yeah, progress usually takes a challenge. Yeah, but you know, I think that we do need sort of challenges to overcome in our lives. We definitely need that sort of working towards something. I get why people are sort of bored with their lives and stuff. I get you. If you're just at home all the time or whatever and you have no aims or no goals to work for, it's kind of, yeah. But I think there's a big difference between that and, you know, having interesting things happen to you and the people around you. What is vegan ice cream meant from? Yeah, that's what I thought soy, but hey. The vanilla is made out of coconut cream. Oh, I'm not a big fan of coconut cream, to be honest with you. I really am not. Really am not. Hey, STS, good to see you. GeoSam says that the British still a thing. Their empire is not. I mean, their empire definitely fell apart. Like, let's face it, the British Empire was the largest empire in human history. Like, just the sheer size of it around the world with all of their colonies kind of thing, it absolutely fell apart. I cannot imagine sort of trying to keep an empire going over the span of the world like they did. It's just ridiculous. So, yeah. But we still have the Commonwealth, which kind of, you know, tips a hat in their direction. But, yeah. They're kind of... you know, without their British Empire, like what actually made them so strong was kind of the rest of their colonies being part of them and sending like a ton of resources to the motherland, essentially. Without that, they are not in a great position. They were a lot better off being part of the EU, in my opinion. Like, so part of the EU, they had a sizable developed chunk of Ireland. Really, 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 really good. Really good. But they decided, for reasons unbeknownst to our ordinary people, they decided to leave, which was probably a fantastic mistake. It is well known that the entire United Kingdom ceases to exist every time my computer powers down. It is known. It is known. Stop the stupidity. Gifted 10 readerships. Thank you so much, STS. I really appreciate it. I'm going to have to get my throat warmed up for this. And thank God my mic is working now. I mean, holy crap. Thank you so much, because, you know, nobody wants to hear the robot, the clankers on this show. Nobody wants to hear that. Hold on a second. Those go out to Jill Sam. Well done. Good shot. Hit somebody in the chat. That is great aim. Stop the stupidity. Calling the shots. Congratulations, Jill Sam. Braden. Well, it's actually X Braden X. Tyler Bloomington. Paraspora, L. Drosphilia. I used to see Drosphilia all the time over on Standing for Truth's channel whenever there was a Kent Hovind debate, because Drosphilia is a fruit fly, if you didn't know. I only know that from reading papers about like fruit flies and experiments done on them. Because to, you know, evolution experiments and experiments where they are mapping evolutionary traits, they have to have short life cycle organisms, and Drosphilia is like 24 hours. It's really convenient. Caterpillar! Awesome. Wayne Dameron. Either that or it's Wayne D. Amron. Not sure which. You can make your own choice. Hamoud FPS Cam. I think, isn't that Paul Camish? I think that's Paul Camish. Haven't seen him for a while, but that's okay. Joshua Jamie. Speaking of England, I think Paul Camish is from England. So winners, chicken dinners, enjoy your emotes and other benefits. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. I'll just put some, if I can find, there it is, yep. Enjoy. And we will be having a member stream tomorrow, this time tomorrow, whatever that is for you, okay, or tonight? Wait. The same time as now. Okay, I'm struggling to say this in a way that makes sense to all time zones, okay? I am struggling, all right? In 24 hours roughly, okay? 24 hours roughly, we will be having a member stream. I'll probably just be playing some games, chatting, you know, just chilling out. I know there was a comment, yeah, I'm voting for Larry for PM. Look, I don't know the contenders. As far as I know, because, look, you can't vote for the new PM, okay? You can't do it. Because of the way the Westminster system works. It's still a bicameral system, but the party chooses the leader and you vote for the party. So the party will put somebody in, and that somebody will be in charge until the next election. So you don't get to vote on this. Not only because you're not in the UK, but also because it doesn't work like that. The most celebrated holiday observed in more than 150 countries is independence from England. Yeah, we don't have that holiday. Is it really? I would imagine that Christmas is the most celebrated holiday. I got to fact check you on that. Um, yeah, apparently Christmas is the most recognized holiday globally. Um, hmm. Maybe any independence, like because don't forget that France and Spain had a lot of colonies. The most celebrated geopolitical holiday is independence from British rule. Okay, no, that's fair. No, apparently it's over 60 countries, not 150. Apparently, that's just what the AI says. This clanker could be wrong. Oh, okay. So I've got here that apparently, according to this guy, Michael Reinhardt. Okay, who are you? You seem to be some random Christian. So, 163 celebrate independence. 65 of those countries independence from United Kingdom and British military occupation. So that sounds more like it to me, right? Because absolutely, like hundreds, because you've got France and Spanish and Portuguese and Dutch colonies as well, but not all of them are celebrating independence from England. Gotcha. Okay. But yeah, it absolutely, celebration of independence is actually a big thing. Harvest the planet for profit. Hey, Ember, so good to see you. Scams, incest, selling people into slavery, paragons for the current POTUS. Yeah, look, you know, you thought he was joking when he said he'd bring biblical values back to the White House. You thought he would. No, these are biblical values, apparently. Biblical values. Wow, first time here in a long while. Thanks for the gift membership. Yeah, GeoSam, that's been happening a bit more, I've noticed. Like, people in the chat have gotten them. I wonder if sort of Google has changed the algorithm or whether it's just, confirmation bias. Like, I see it and go, wow, that seems to be happening a lot. But I don't notice any of the other times where people in the chat haven't gotten a membership. So, I don't know. Maybe they changed the algorithm. Maybe I'm just biased. Who knows? Larry would have been a good choice. They probably should have stuck with the head of lettuce. Okay, maybe they should elect a horse. Glitterhoof for PM. Okay, so if you don't know that reference, Glitterhoof, there was a game called Crusader Kings, and you could, like, if you got insane, you could elect your horse as a chancellor or some like a position to your council, and the horse's name was Glitterhoof. So, Glitterhoof for PM is a thing. Larry is the cat. Oh, I got you. Right. Yes. I absolutely. I think that a cat running some of the country could not have done a worse job. Germany had colonies in the Caribbean up to World War One. Yeah, yep. A lot of European nations did the whole colonization thing. Yeah, pretty bad. Pretty bad. Pretty bad. Yeah, okay, Purple. Yeah, someone told me what a brand account was. Like, you can have other people on there and stuff. I'm really sorry to hear. I didn't even know I could make a brand account. I had no idea what the hell that was all about. No idea what that was all about. No idea. Let's see how our poll has gone. Well, a chancellor. So they sort of run the domestic affairs of the nobility during the feudal system. So they basically do domestic and foreign affairs essentially. So they sort of, you would probably you would probably equate it to, what would it be in America? It would be the secretary, like the person that runs all the staff and stuff. Person who runs staff in White House. I have to translate this to American. Chief of staff, I think. Chief of staff, maybe? Sort of, you think chief of staff. That's sort of what Chancellor is doing. Like, you know, oversees all of the staff and the advisors and all of the people, essentially. I think that's about where you'd put it at. God, I have to translate for you people. Figurehead? No. That's currently that's what it is, but not really. That's not what it was back in the day. Oh, look, purple. No one can get OBS to work. That's OBS is unmanageable. It's unworkable as far as I'm concerned. Okay, let's see how this has gone. The poll says, God is the arsehole. Yeah, it's a common theme. I kind of lean a little bit towards everybody sucks, but, you know, I don't think this dad did anything wrong. Joseph's dad is just freaking out at home. Look, Joseph's dad has you know, done a lot wrong, but nothing in this scenario. Nothing in this scenario. So we will move on to the next one. Okay, Yahweh, why do you do this? Why do you do this? Am I the arsehole for allowing a guy to stage an elaborate trap to test his brothers to the point of family disruption? Yes. Yes, you are. Forget to wear some fancy insignia. Look, everybody's after the fancy hat. Everybody. That's why bishops do what they do. It's all about the hat. So this guy, Joseph, had demanded his brother return to Egypt with Benjamin, the youngest of his brothers. Yes, so Benjamin's the youngest. Benjamin did not have anything to do with his brother being sold into slavery. He was probably a baby at the time, if he even was born yet. So Benjamin had nothing to do with it. But his brothers have been told to bring him back to Egypt, and they, you know, are swapping him for Simeon the eldest, or they've done it on Joseph's demand. So Benjamin's kind of just an innocent child here. It's just ridiculous why this is happening to poor little Benjamin. Like, seriously, he's got no idea what's going on. And by this stage, the emotional tension was already intense. They had survived a famine, endured imprisonment, brought Benjamin at enormous personal cost, and had still no idea that the powerful Egyptian official controlling everything was actually Joseph, the brother they had sold into slavery as a child. At this point, Joseph had seen enough to know that they weren't exactly the same men who had sold him years earlier. Yeah, well, they still are kind of crappy. He had watched them return for Simeon and had seen them bring Benjamin despite their concerns and the enormous risk, which I don't think is a good thing to do, right? You're basically saying, hey, I'm going to take the oldest brother hostage, come back with your youngest brother. I don't know, like, Simeon probably deserves it, to be honest with you. The stuff that Simeon has done has been horrible. Like, Simeon has massacred people. He obviously was going to kill his brother and then sold him into slavery. Like, he's not a great guy. But Benjamin didn't do anything. Okay, he's just a kid. He had watched their anxiety, guilt, and fear, but did not end this game. Yeah, at this point, it's looking like, you know, he's playing games with his brothers. And that is not like me being biased or sort of misinterpreting in any way. He's literally playing this game with his brothers. I also did not stop him or bring this to a halt, although I knew exactly what was going on. Yes, God knew what was going on, but didn't try to stop him. He didn't send Joseph a dream. He didn't give him any warnings. Apparently, Joseph can communicate with God enough to be able to prophesy the future, but God can't send him a signal to, hey, cut this crap out. Apparently. He instructed his servants to fill the brothers' sacks with grain and return their money again, but this time he added something else. Joseph made sure his personal silver cup was secretly placed in the youngest son, Benjamin's sack. Right? So he's basically framing Benjamin, the youngest son, who, I might add, did nothing to him for stealing his silver cup. So he's framing him. He is putting this in here. He is planting evidence, as we would understand it today, in order to set up the youngest son who did nothing wrong. Like nothing wrong. The brothers left believing things had finally gone well. They had food, Simeon was back, Benjamin was safe, but shortly after they departed, Joseph sent his steward after them with accusations of theft. Can we just stop and consider this for a second? Like, they're worried, right? They have their brother hostage. They are freaking out because this Egyptian official who could end them with on a whim, that person plants evidence, frames them for theft, and then sends an official out to say, oh, you stole my cup that he planted there. Okay, I'm going to go more into this, but just wait. This steward confronted them and demanded to search their bags while the brothers proclaimed their innocence. In fact, they were so certain that they were innocent that they declared whoever had the cup should die and the rest would become servants. Well, slaves, really. Slaves is more accurate there, but you know, this is wild. The family was devastated when the cup, of course, was found in Benjamin's sack. Because it was he was framed. Hashtag Benjamin was framed. This was the worst case scenario for the brothers, as Benjamin was the exact brother Jacob has. Oh, I misconstrued that. That sentence was worded badly. This was the worst case scenario for the brothers, as Benjamin was the exact brother Jacob had been most afraid to lose. Yeah. The entire trip had revolved around keeping him safe, that's Benjamin safe, yet now, through Joseph framing him, he appeared guilty of theft and faced enslavement or execution. So yeah, they're already freaking out, trying to keep their brother, their little brother safe, and Jacob set it up so the little brother would be arrested for a theft that he clearly did not do. Joseph confronted them and declared Benjamin would remain as his servant, or otherwise known as a slave, while the others were free to go home. One of the sons, Judah, stepped forward and appealed to their father's grief, Joseph's earlier disappearance, and Jacob's fragile emotional state. Yes, so Judah was the fourth brother, right? So he's the tribe of Judah. He's the one that is the origin point of the Jewish tribe, basically. So tribe Judah. So Jacob's basically, he's saying, oh, my father Jacob, who is also Joseph's father, is just beset. He's lost his son Joseph, who's the guy in front of him, and now he's going to lose Benjamin. He described how losing Benjamin would destroy their father completely. I think that Joseph should know that by now, but whatever. Then Judah offered himself in Benjamin's place, which is ironic, as Judah was the brother who suggested selling Joseph as a slave when he was a child. Yes, Judah was the one who said, let's not kill him, let's sell him as a slave. So this is sort of setting up how Judah is more compassionate than his brothers. Okay, or a better person than his brothers, because the other brothers wanted to kill Joseph, and Judah said, no, let's sell him as a slave instead. Okay, so Judah's being set up here as the more compassionate one of the brothers, but Joseph is the one traditionally held up as a really good guy, right? He is the best of guys. Now, the thing is that Joseph himself was imprisoned when he was accused of a crime he didn't commit. If you remember from the earlier verse, what happened was that he was a slave to a merchant, an important man in Egypt, and the master's wife had tried to get in his pants, basically, had tried to seduce him. And he was all, no, I do not want her. That would be a sin kind of thing, because she is married. That would be sinful. And the woman accused him, and he was put in prison because he was unjustly accused. So the way the Bible lays this out is really problematic, because instead of saying, isn't it horrible to be accused unjustly and imprisoned unjustly because of the false accusations of somebody, Joseph, the guy who's supposed to be a good guy, gets falsely accused, imprisoned, and then go on to falsely accuse somebody else and threaten them with imprisonment. And that person is his youngest brother, who literally did nothing to him. Now, you might say, well, Joseph is trying to punish his brothers for what they did to him as a child, because Simeon, Judah, the other brothers with him, they did sell him into slavery in the story, right? So you might say, hey, that is, he's trying to teach them why it is wrong. And that's okay, right? I get that, hey, if you want to make an example to show how it is improper, or how it can be devastating to do this kind of thing to people, unjustly imprison or unjustly enslave them, okay. But why include Benjamin in that? Right? Why include somebody who did nothing to you? Can you imagine being a child and basically going with your brothers, having this insanely powerful, representative of a more powerful country frame you, like threaten to imprison you? And don't forget, his brothers, the narrative says that they tore their clothes, right? They were incredibly upset at this, at the cup being found within Benjamin's belongings, because that meant he would be killed or enslaved. Okay, that was the punishment. So they were absolutely rent. Can you imagine a child being the center of that? And then, your other brother saying, no, enslave me instead, right? Be a slave instead. I can't imagine what that would do to the child. That is trauma. And it's inflicted on you by your brother, who was wronged, yes, but then goes on to wrong you. It doesn't make things right. I know there is a case to be made that victims of trauma go on to traumatize others, but two wrongs don't make a right. And there are so much better ways to vindicate yourself in this circumstance than just bringing everybody into it, your entire family into it, even the people that did nothing wrong. So I knew Joseph was going to frame his youngest brother for a terrible crime. I knew that he was going to emotionally torment his brothers and his father, but I did nothing to stop it and did not in any way attempt to resolve the situation. I have been criticized heavily for not intervening and finding an amicable way to heal this family without them engaging in this entrapment behavior. Am I the arsehole for allowing this? And I would say absolutely. Like the strange part here, the really strange part here, I'll grab the thing, you can vote. Is God the arsehole? That is the question. Do let me know why or why not. Would love to know. Like, why can God intervene to tell Joseph about, like he intervened to tell Joseph about a baker and a cupbearer in prison. Like he intervened to, give tarot readings basically for his like cellmates, but he can't intervene to stop this nonsense. God right to allow Joseph to torment his brothers in a sick game. This is feeling almost like a Saw or something. He really has orchestrated the circumstances. Joseph has orchestrated the circumstances that these guys, they're going to be absolutely petrified and absolutely despondent. This is not good. But Joseph is seen as this holy and righteous man who is one of the good people in the Bible. And I honestly don't know why. Like, honestly, I have no idea why. This is absolutely sick. I could understand it, right? I wouldn't encourage it, but I could absolutely understand it if Joseph just did it to his brothers. Like, his brothers came back, he smuggled the cup into Judah's bag or something, right? Like Judah the fourth son. And then said, oh, you've done this, you are now going to become a slave. That would teach them a lesson about unjustly enslaving people. That would teach them a lesson, a valuable lesson. Okay, I could almost see that. I don't think it's the best way to do it, but I could understand it. But what I don't understand is sort of making your father suffer when he's already absolutely heartbroken that he's lost you. Like, just piling on the misery on this guy. Exposing your youngest brother to a threat of death or slavery when he had nothing to do with the reason why you're doing it. This is insane. Like, this is psychopathic behavior. He's just a child. He doesn't understand what's going on. Like, the person I feel really sorry for is Benjamin. Because, Benjamin's just a small child who doesn't understand why he's being framed. Do the brothers think that Benjamin actually stole the cup? Is Benjamin worried that his brothers are going to hate him for it? It's absolutely insane. Like, it's insane. And God does not step in. And this is the man they hold up as the standard for Old Testament goodness. Good old Joseph. He's like the villain from Saw. Who handles the chancelling or chancery? The Chandler? The chancery. Isn't that like a purse keeper, like a money thing? Administrative headquarters of a diocese. Okay. Historically, the term originates from the English's Lord Chancellor's medieval office, which evolved into the Court of Chancery. It deals with matters of equity rather than strict common law, such as trusts, estate property, and corporate disputes. Okay, so the Court of Chancery and the Chancellor deals with more, not criminal matters, but civil matters. It'd be like civil court in your case. Nobody can get OBS to work. Yeah, that is a true statement. That is a true statement. Hey, Titan, good to see you, mate. Chat just got at least 10% cooler, and definitely got cooler with noise ending in the chat. Good to see you, mate. You're assuming we know how our government works. Yeah, no, I actually am completely blown away by the fact that I know a lot more about how the US political system works than most US citizens. That blows me away. That absolutely blows me away. I think certain things I know more, certain things I don't know as much. Like, don't get me wrong, I certainly don't know as much about your political system as a politically minded person in America. But I think that most people in America aren't really politically minded. I think that, I think that a lot of people, it's not like they avoid politics, but they don't actually understand the system and the mechanisms of politics. They really just, will support the issue that they think. They don't really understand how it actually gets done. Like how it actually, like, bills get passed, or the restrictions on a president, or any of that kind of stuff. I don't think they really pay attention to that. They just focus on, I want this, or, this should happen. That's average person, okay? I'm not applying that to everybody, because there's definitely more politically minded people who know way more than me. Absolutely. In today's White House, peon. Look, I've got no problem with peons being in charge. Like, seriously. I think that, so a peon is sort of a peasant. It's just a peasant. That's all it is. I don't have any problem with the peasants being in charge. I think so. I think a peon is sort of more a labourer kind of thing, like physical labourer, rather than just any peasant like a farmer or something, I think. But I've got no problem with that. I think there'd be less corruption that way. I think Chancellor would be equal to one of the federal secretaries in the president's cabinet. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly. Because, you're really talking about somebody. But, I think that trying to equate positions in a medieval society under sort of absolute monarchy, where he can just say, okay, you have all of these powers kind of thing, and somebody in a democracy which is constrained by the way the executive is actually set up. I mean, that's a mistake. Because if the king in an absolute monarchy wants to go, oh, you now have the power to, execute people on the spot, he can do so, right? Like, there's nothing stopping him from giving that person that power. So I think it is a mistake to sort of compare the two. But you're right, Purple. The constraints upon the executive functions of, somebody in a democracy is a lot more stringent than somebody in a monarchy. Absolutely. Which is why I don't understand why people want a monarchy. It's wild to me. It's wild to me. Hey, Jinx. Hey, Jinx. Good to see you. Oh, that's something I do have to do, and I almost forgot. Why didn't you remind me? How dare you, chat? I blame you. I blame you. I have got to give out some memberships. I should have remembered before, but I didn't. So, for being absolutely reprehensibly awesome, I'm going to shoot these out now. How dare you be awesome? You're making me look bad, people. You're making me look bad. I'm going to throw those out. Yeah, you didn't expect that, did you? Please don't, like, show 3 and then... Oh, thank you. Okay, that was a bit of a delay. Thank you. I appreciate it. So those go out to Theron, Solus, Oceanus, Helios, Gregory, Campbell, Horsepipe. Wow, okay. I don't know what a horsepipe is, but for some reason I want one. I don't know why. C.K. Mamacita. I hope I pronounced that right. Mamacita? I believe so. There you go. There I go. Yes, so see, a horsepipe. Dang. Is that like a tailpipe for horses? I don't know. That's what it is from now on. Did you hear the CEO of IKEA was elected president of Sweden? He'll have his cabinet assembled by the week. Oh, that's good. I like that. I like that. It makes me think the Constitution of Sweden is just those pictures of the the IKEA man putting together a law kind of thing. Have policy right way up. Insert screws in here, here, and here. So the genius thing about IKEA was that they made their instructions without any language whatsoever. That was genius, right? Like, because if you get instructions and they're like in Chinese, you cannot make heads or tails of it. It's a problem. The genius of IKEA was making their instructions without any language whatsoever. Absolute genius. Yeah, fantastic. Them and Lego. Really cool. Really cool. Embroidered epaulets. Aren't those the shoulder things? The shoulder tassel-y things, right? Shiny metal or sparkly stones. Yeah. I think. Look, I think that you can overdo it. I think that shiny metal or sparkly stones. I think that moderation is key there. Moderation is key. At some point, you look like a chandelier. Stop. It should accent your natural beauty. And yes, you have natural beauty. It should accent it. It shouldn't overpower it. Okay? Can we all get on board with this? The ostentatiousness of certain people is kind of really obnoxious. Really obnoxious. I never got into the whole wearing a massive clock or something like that. I think you can have too much of that crap. Too much. What if it was embroidered with stainless steel wire? Embroidered with stainless steel wire. Yeah, chainmail. Yeah, chainmail. Or ring mail, maybe. Ring mail. So chainmail so what's the difference between chainmail and ring mail? Right? So chainmail interlinks as a chain, and ring mail just has the rings kind of thing. They're just set together. I have yarn. You know what? They used to use wool for chainmail. They just painted wool, woolen thread, silver or metallic, and then wove it into what looks like chainmail for movies. How they used to do it. It's interesting. Be a lot lighter. I need some jewelry with amethyst. Oh, amethyst. Yeah, and big shout out to Sloth Girl. She's absolutely missed. Yeah, absolutely. Sloth Girl used to do a lot of knitting and crocheting and things like that, didn't she? Who Framed Brother Bernie? Simeon the Eternal Victim? No. Simeon is not great, okay? Simeon and Levi were the two brothers that, while an entire city was injured due to circumcision, they slaughtered the lot of them, okay? So we're not acknowledging that Simeon is a victim. If you mean that Simeon has a victim complex, then yeah, I'm right on board. Ain't the Bible a perfect source of examples of morality? Yeah, I think that if you hold up this is the wrong thing to do, then it could be, right? Because morality isn't just what we ought to do, it's what we ought not to do. And so Joseph sort of framing his youngest brother who did nothing wrong and is still a child for a theft that is punishable with execution or enslavement is really, it'd be a good moral to say, hey, don't do that. But the fact that Joseph is held up as this paragon of righteous and goodness, that's a problem, right? That's a real problem. A chainmail dickie? Well, I presume you mean just a top. Tempting you with fire opals? Fire opals. There's a place that has an incredible amount of opals. Kuba Pedy. in Australia. They live underground. It's such a cool place. Um, fire opals come from. Do they have fire opals? I don't know. I know they have opals. They primarily come from Mexico. Okay. Oh, they are found in Australia, though. Okay, so they do have them. Interesting. Fire opals. Yeah, why not? Why not? Yeah, pose like a model. You gotta enjoy. Poor Mark. I don't know why I'm poor. Why am I poor? I'm very confused. Why am I poor? And isn't that Mad Max? I mean, either this person likes movies or apocalypses or Mel Gibson or all of the above. I'm gonna guess all of the above. I really am. That is, I believe the original Mad Max too, where he was a cop. So that's an Australian show. Yeah, Mad Max was made in Australia. You can tell. It's all the accents. God loves dramatic theatre. Yeah, yeah. I think I do not understand why God steps in and why he doesn't. It's very weird. It's very strange. God should have told Joseph he was going way too far. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely true. This is ridiculous. You know, of all of the things he steps in for, this should be one of them. God have known what a poor designer and was and not created anything. Well, that's assuming that the God is A, the designer, and B, omnipotent or omniscient, right? Like he knew that designs would have problems, which you would hope the God would, right? But the thing about it is that this God in this book does not seem omniscient. He is too ignorant of stuff going on. He doesn't know what's happening in Sodom and Gomorrah. He doesn't know where Adam and Eve are. He doesn't know a lot of things. He has to send people to find out. That does not sound like an omniscient God to me, like an all-knowing God. Silly Yahweh, substitute sacrifices are for the sequel. Yeah, yeah. I don't believe in intelligent design, but I could possibly believe in incompetent design. Yeah, I still wouldn't think so. So if you look at biological systems, that they don't, like, even incompetent systems have the hallmarks of top-down design. So even if they're incompetently designed, you will not get systems without a function anymore, or systems that look cobbled together and not exactly work with other systems. That sort of top-down design is still present even in bad design, right? You won't get these extraneous things that don't seem to fit in with the rest of it, and you still get that. So I don't think I can even believe in incompetent design because it just doesn't look top-down designed. It just doesn't. Is he just a child though? How old is he? How old? I think he's like, 12, 13. I think he's very young. Is Benjamin in Genesis? I'll just let 44. It doesn't explicitly state. Yeah, so he is, well, when they have a reunion, he is estimated to be roughly 22 to 33 years old. So yeah, maybe he is a bit older, but um early to mid 20s or early 30s. Yeah, I think early 20s would probably be more accurate because they only reconcile later. But, you know, he is frequently referred to as lad or younger child because he is the youngest brother in the family. Yeah, so maybe he isn't a young child, but still, if I was 20 and that was being happening to me, I would certainly be upset. Hang on. It seems to say there's a contradiction here. So the Bible teaches that Benjamin was an infant when he migrated to Egypt. Oh, okay. So there may be a word that is um, sort of a lad, sort of a young child or lad, a young man. It doesn't have to be infant. That could be misinterpreted. Okay, well that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. But I still think that sort of being punished for that is not cool. It's not cool. Seems to parallel modern activities in the region. One immeasurable concept cosmos for one tiny planet with yammering monkeys. Great design. Yeah, yeah. Our schools are shit for teaching how our system works. Yeah, and I think that they do run civics in your schools, but I don't know why it's fallen off. I think Australians have a better idea of how it works just because our vote is compulsory. We have to vote. So we kind of, make sure that people kind of understand the system because you're forced to engage in it. And I'm supportive of this. I think that the least you can do if you live in a country is in some way contribute to the democracy of the country. I mean, it's one day in a year and it takes like 20 minutes, if that. Like, if you're lucky, you can get through in like 5 minutes. No one's there and you just, toss your vote in and go. It really doesn't take long. I don't understand it. Like, 5-10 minutes out of your day once a year, and it's always on a weekend, so it's always on a Saturday or something. And every single, like, the polling places are like everywhere. Like, I don't understand. I am so bewildered as to why people say, "Oh, you can't make me vote." Like, it's nothing. It's nothing. I don't get it. I really do not. It is so wild to me. I don't understand. Of all the things that you're forced to do in life, that is nothing. It's wild. I am so bewildered as to why people have a problem with vote. I can't understand it. That is why they can get people to vote based on fear of woke and ignore everything else that is going on. Yeah, because when you have an issue and you don't understand what causes it, why it is happening, it is very easy for the political class to tell you that they can solve the problem by doing X, Y, and Z, right? I think that the same applies to the religious, right? Like, if I ran on a policy of, your economy's bad, it's hard to afford things, you feel like you don't have a voice, it's all the religious people's fault, and if I get into power, I'm just going to get rid of the religious people. That won't actually solve the problem, right? The problem is a lot deeper than just, don't get me wrong, I think that a lot of religious people do some harms, but that isn't going to fix the economy or in some way correct the wealth inequality. It's a bigger problem than that. But what they're running on is saying, hey, it is the immigrants, it is the woke people, there's the reason why you're struggling. And what a lot of, I think, Americans are finding out is that they got somebody in who cracked down on all of that, and things haven't changed. In fact, they've gotten worse because it was never the cause of the problem in the first place. It was never the cause of the problem. So I think both sides kind of do that. You know, both Republicans and Democrats. And this is someone from outside looking in, right? I don't have a dog in this race over in the US, but I think both, you know, the Democrats just blame the right wing, you know, real horrible people for everything, and the right wing blame the wokest people for everything, and neither of them are looking at the system which puts corporations and individuals, like Bernie goes on about, you know, like Bernie Sanders is one of the few people that actually sort of try to identify the real problem, that wealth is being transferred from the middle and lower classes to a elite 1% of the population, where it just does nothing, goes nowhere, and is just used as a marker, and then nobody else says anything. I think that he really hits the nail on the head. And Bernie Sanders, for one, doesn't get into this, you know, everything the right do or bad. He gets into what can we do to fix the problem. I think it's something to be said about that. That's not saying that the some of the things that they are doing is really horrible and terrible. Yes, absolutely. I totally understand that. But if you're looking at doing certain things, you've got to find the cause of it, not just blame some people, like a demographic. You've got to look at the system. And I think that's really important. He promised to lower prices on day one. Yeah. Because he was going to do all of these things that was never going to solve the problem, Jinx. It never would. Some assembly required is my love language. Oh, that is cute. That is so cute. IKEA stole the instruction model from Lego. Kind of, a little bit. I guess it's hard to you cannot patent styles and what am I thinking of? Systems, right? Like you can't patent the system of something, right? It's like in computer games is a perfect example. You can patent characters and you can patent sort of entities, like intellectual property can be your character, it can be the title on your game, it can be all kinds of things, but you can't patent mechanics, right? Mechanics is what I'm thinking of. You can't patent a way of doing things, right? So if somebody has a way of producing like for instance in the IKEA, the mechanics of the system of how they do it, you can't actually patent that system. So anybody can take it, change the style a little, and then say, hey, that is you know, the same mechanics, but in their own style. And IKEA did that very well. But there's a reason for that. It's very, you know, I agree with that. You shouldn't be able to patent mechanics. I knew a lady who translated Chinese instruction manuals into the English. The literal meanings were sometimes hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I've seen YouTube videos where they translate like Chinese tattoos. And it's actually hilarious what some people have written on them. I had a shirt that I got cheap, and I'll never forget this because it was hilarious, right? Like it had Chinese characters on it, and it looked cool, right? Like it had these Chinese characters. It was a shirt that looked cool, and like I had a like somebody I knew in university who was Chinese, and I'm like, what does this translate as? And she was like, well, it's really hard to translate. It's like a weird sort of structure of Chinese, like something badly structured. Okay, so this was obviously done by maybe you know, someone trying to fake Chinese characters. She said, I think from context, it's trying to say, have a long and fruitful life, or I'm going to have a long and fruitful life. But what it actually directly translates to is long life fruit. And I went, that is awesome. I am going to wear this shirt all the time. So yeah, I mean, I wore a shirt that said long life fruit in Chinese across my chest, and I thought that was awesome. That was so funny to me. I thought that was great. But yeah, she said, I think it's trying to say have a long and fruitful life, or I'm, a blessing kind of thing, long and fruitful life. But it said long life fruit, which is just hilarious. Aliens from Planet Lego land on Earth, we come in peace. Is about Ringmail is crafting components about 30 armor. I made mail for from wine glasses? Oh, that's cool. 4 wine glasses. Or were the wine glasses chainmail? How did the wine glasses carry liquid if they were chainmail? Did they have something else over the holes? I am so bewildered. Or was it just artistic expression? It wasn't meant to carry liquid. Look, if you made chainmail into a functional wine glass and didn't plug up the holes, you'd be a worse designer than Yahweh is, quite frankly. You bought a power tool in Germany? Look, German engineering is fantastic. I will give it to the Germans. They designed some freaking amazing stuff. The instructions had 7 languages. For some reason, English was not one of them. Right. Yeah. She did knitting and crochet. She made hats. Oh, that is so sweet. She gave them out to homeless people. That is so sweet. That is gorgeous. Saw Dinka Killers. I don't know what that means. That is Max? Yeah, Road Warrior. Yeah. Hey, look, I mean, Mel Gibson was good, pretty good as Mad Max. I did like Tom Hardy more. I did like the new one a lot. I think by the time it got to Thunderdome, it was on the downhill. Wow, I'm old. Weirdly, I was just looking at a fine-tuning video. I never finished for popping in here. Yeah. I would expect an omnipotent, omniscient God to do better fine-tuning than what we find. When they sort of say fine-tuning, it's falling into a range that you wouldn't expect from a perfect God. In that day, reality was 33 was middle age. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, the average age of people in that time, Beck, is kind of misleading. It's kind of misleading because the average age was based upon people died a lot more earlier, right? So there was a lot of, say, infant mortality, which brings down the average age a lot. I think that once you got to your teens, for instance, the age was a lot higher. So it wasn't like people died a lot at age, 40 or 50 kind of thing. They usually made it to 60, 70, if they made it that far. But now, I mean, the age has gone up. But average age during the Middle Ages is a bit misleading, mostly because there was so much sort of infant mortality and, mortality in childbirth, basically. It brings the average down. But life expectancy was actually higher if you actually made it to an adult. Polling places in some place to effed up. Yeah, I think that's by design, Al. That's a tangent, but I think that's by design. I think that when you are making voting compulsory, so in Australia, any political party that makes it difficult to vote is going to have a bad day because people will hate them because they have to vote. We can have long waits in the US depending on where you live. Yeah, I think that's by design. I think it's why so many people postal vote or, they send in a postal vote. I think that's why. And I think that's perfectly acceptable. I don't know why. Well, I suspect why Trump doesn't like postal voting. He just wants to restrict it as much as possible. I think it's terrible. I think it's absolutely terrible because that is the normal reaction people will have well, let's do it another way that isn't so, No, Beck, I dislike the word lazy, mate. I really do. I got to push back on that. I think people are disheartened, right? They don't believe in the process. I think, and rightly so. I think that disheartening of the electorate is absolutely understandable. I don't think they're lazy. I think they have a lack of confidence. They're disheartened. They hate the system. I think there's a lot of reasons, and I think lazy is not one of them. I don't think so. I think that the system has been tailored to make it hard for hard-working people to actually vote, and so they resent it. They resent the system. I think I would not say lazy. No, I want to push back on that. Yeah, in places where there is no hope, voting seems futile. Yeah. Majestic Beck says, I haven't voted in years. I have not been presented with a viable candidate. And yeah, that's a problem. I totally get it. That's a problem. Yes. It's bad or worse, right? I think though that we have an obligation to society to make sure it is the bad and not the worse. I'm sorry, Beck. I know I'm picking on you, mate. I'm picking on you today, but it sucks. It sucks. I totally get that. I absolutely understand it, and I'm right there on board. But if your choices are between bad and worse, I think we do have a moral obligation to make sure it's the bad and not the worse. Sorry. And that sucks. I am not saying that's a good situation. I totally understand. But I still think we have that obligation. Al, yeah, Al. Hey, Al. Good to see you, mate. Hopefully you are having a good drive, my friend. Burning the straw man only makes the situation hotter? Financial caste system. Yeah, I mean, I presume you mean caste there, C-A-S-T-E. Yeah, I think I saw this really good video on oligarchy by Johnny Harris, who I do like his videos. I don't watch a ton of them, but I really like his videos, and he did a really good one on oligarchy. I put it in my Discord. You can join my Discord. Link is in the description, and I think it's linked to the channel. So come over there. But I did throw it in there, and it is very interesting watch about how we think of oligarchs. And I think that he goes into really well something called the wealth defense industry. It's like basically all of the people defending the wealth of this class that has a lot of that wealth, and how much time, effort, energy they put into defending that against it being redistributed. Long life fruit. Okay, fruit. May we all have a long life fruit. No, maybe all be a long life fruit. My audio processing wasn't working. Okay, that's cool, Tommy. That's good. Don't worry. The start of this video, my audio processing was terrible. Let's just blame the internet, because it can be blamed. Mail over the glass. Okay, got you. Germany has been around for the metalworking for half a millennium, and still what makes what are arguably the best blades on the planet. Look, I'm all on board with that, okay? The Germans make this thing I've got in my kitchen called a Thermomix. People tell me it's cheating. I don't care. It is amazing, and it is so awesome. It's awesome. Absolutely awesome. I am, yeah. Not named till the age of 8 is maybe a waste of a name. Yeah. In the Jewish tradition, the bris was done on the 8th day, and the ceremony was when the child was named. Big part of how many babies did not make it through the first week. Yeah, the bris is absolutely terrible. I think that any modern society should be, it's hard to outlaw a religious ceremony, but in my opinion, the bris should be one of them. It is absolutely terrible what they do, and the problems it can cause. I can't imagine back in the day. You think God would have stepped in and said, hey, the bris, not hygienic, guys. Please stop doing it. Are you wondering why all of these children are getting infected in that area? Please stop. Just stop. And you can argue that it's a religious tradition. I'm sorry, but your religious traditions, if they're causing that amount of harm, do a symbolic thing, okay? Do it in symbolism instead. I'm sorry, it's dangerous. If there is a way you can do it in a healthy way, I mean, that's fine, but wait till the person is an age where they can consent to it. Because it's not right making children go through it when they can't consent to it legally. That isn't right. That isn't right. The best was back in 2020 when Trump was complaining that most mail-in votes went for Biden, and he literally spent months telling his supporters not to vote by mail. Yeah. Yes. But that's the goal, Tommy. Think about it. That's the goal. Right? If you tell all your supporters to vote in person and not vote by mail, and then you can eliminate the mail-in ballots, you will illegally, immorally, unjustly skew all of those votes to yourself. Right? This isn't a person being weird, and it's not like, I mean, it's sort of darkly funny, but it's not really funny that he's trying to eliminate a whole bunch of votes for his opposition and keep his. It is a violation of democracy. My state is postal voting by default. You can vote in person if you want to. They try to offer as many options as voting to include as many voters as they can. Yeah, and that's what we should be doing. Including as many people as possible in the easiest way possible. Right? The least onerous way. Because if we expect people to participate in the democracy, we can't make it hard for people. And so, you know, what gets me is they want to restrict people from participating in the democracy, which is horrible. In the US, many people do not vote because they're convinced their vote does not matter due to the Electoral College. The Electoral College is a thing that I'm a bit fuzzy on, but I think that, I mean, the states do still send electors. I get you, Purple, that it's one more, because over here, what we do is we vote for a party that then has representatives in them. Okay, so the people apply to be elected to seats. We vote for the party. Those parties then, their leader becomes the prime minister. Okay, so it's one step removed. And I get that that's sort of one step removed where you vote for the party and that party puts up a slate of electors in order to make the Electoral College vote for the president. I get that that's a couple of steps removed from direct democracy. I get it. But it, you know, I think that it still does matter when it comes to electing the president. It still does matter. It's still some form of influence upon the democratic system. So I think that should be really pushed back on. That having a choice over which party sends their slate of electors is better than having no influence at all. That's better. Unfortunately, in the US, our choice is between corporate right-wing and religious right-wing. We have no party that even leans left anymore. Yeah, and you're not wrong. And the progressives, like, I think that the Democrats, if they get back in, at the moment it looks like when they get back in, but they have to change and be more progressive. Both parties are trailing behind the way that your society is progressing and the progressiveness in it. One of them seems to be favouring corporate interests over the interests of the people. The other one is, you know, wanting to rewind things back to the 1950s. Neither of them are great. And I got to say, we see the same tendency in Australia. Absolutely see the same tendency over here. It isn't great. I totally get that. But between a party that uses the democracy in order to further corporate interests and a party that wants to destroy democracy entirely, or at least that's what they're going to do, to remove any ability to change or have a different system, we've got to go with the one that still preserves the system. I know that people like Hassan disagree. They'll go, don't vote for Democrat because we need to change the entire system. But, I really think that allowing the entire structure to collapse is going to harm people incredibly. I think that the only way to do it is to change the system. And it's been done once before. As I mentioned, Johnny Harris sort of pointed to this. There was the robber barons of the sort of early days of America, the railroad barons, the Rockefellers and things like that, and they really did clamp down on how much power they had. They really did change the structure and sort of stopped them. Did it stick? No. It's always a struggle. It's always a struggle. I don't vote so much for candidates as for situations, and that's a problem. That's a problem, Tommy. I wasn't crazy about Harris, but I saw the situation with her far more preferable to this. Yeah, and I think an overwhelming majority of people would agree with you. I think a lot of the things that were leveraged against Harris were inconsequential and false. Like, for instance, her sleeping her way to the top or whatever. They're inconsequential. That doesn't matter. It's just a personal attack on somebody that obviously did not do that. Saying that she would start World War III. Well, she did. She wouldn't have. Then, obviously we're way closer now with Iran than anything else. It's a shocking situation. It's a shocking situation. I get you, but we shouldn't be going, hey, that's the best of a bunch of bad people. I don't see why that should be the case. And, this is the thing about the system over here. I was sick of the candidates that were putting themselves up. So I voted for an independent who was going for my seat, right? Somebody not associated with any party. And she won, right? She's not associated with the Labour Party or the Liberal Party or the Greens or any party. She's just an independent. So her only influence as far as motivation for a policy is concerned is what the people of her constituents want. She doesn't have a party telling her what to do. But our system is set up so you can do that. And I think that in a way, America has to set up a system so they can do that as well. I think that would be the way to go. That I really wish that representatives would look deep inside, find their fucking balls, and stand up to their parties more. I totally get why they don't. You could be primaried. You could have them, take all your funding away. You could have them, like Bernie Sanders, for instance. He stands up to his party. That's why I respect the guy. Don't agree with everything he says, but hey, he stands up to his party and he has his own position on stuff. I think there should be more of stuff like that. Find your balls. Find your balls. How long will fruits and vegetables last? Cool Guide's apples. Look, potatoes last a long time. I do know that. Cheating? Work smarter, not harder. Food prep isn't a competition. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I'm right on board with you, aren't you? Congratulations on surviving your first week. Now let's see if you can handle massive infections. Yeah, and this is sort of where I'd put religion and science side by side. Like, religion is still doing bris, which causes a whole heap of problems and concerns and problems later on in life. Or you have, like, science inventing a vaccine for whooping cough, right, which kills so many infants, or used to kill so many infants. We kind of have that under lock. This is the reason why we should be listening to science rather than listening to religion. Yeah, it's disgusting. It's horrible. And, to say unhygienic is an understatement. If humans are the apex of God's creation, why is it prescribed for all the male babies to have a repair right after they are born? Because the Bible says so. It's tradition. Hitch had a great piece about infant mutilations like that. Yeah, and that's the thing, Ember. It's so wild to hear religious and Christian people say, the trans kids are being mutilated as children when surgeries aren't done until they can consent and are of age to be able to consent to them, right? Unless it's an emergency medical thing, which they don't do. So no. And B, those same people are getting circumcisions for their children, which is literally mutilating an infant. It's wild. It's so wild. Hello, Evil Toe. Good to see you. I've seen you around. It's welcome. Acorn squash? I don't know what that is. I gotta say, like, butternut pumpkin is pretty solid as far as squashes go. Oh, look, everybody misses the hitch. I'm right there with you. The cake is a lie. That was one of my favorite games ever. I'm still salty about Hillary Clinton beating Trump by 3 million votes and still losing thanks to the Electoral College. Yeah, but the popular vote isn't that's the popular vote is not how any system works. I don't think so. Like, it's just not how any system works, Ember. Because you've got to have, you could have the presidency based upon popular vote, right? That could be a thing, sure. You could do that, sure. But the whole idea of representatives in a legislative body, for instance, is that you have you have to have those representatives looking out for their patch of land. So I totally understand why they've got that. Why you can't do your president as popular vote, I have no idea. No idea. I think mostly it's because the states control the voting, and that's a good thing. You do not want to federalize, like have under the federal executive who counts the votes for the federal executive. That's just a recipe for disaster. So you've got to give the counting of the votes to the states. You could do it by, having the states just get totals and send it in, right? Send in their totals with it displayed by the states. But I agree that the states should be counting the votes. I do not think it's wise to have a centralized vote counting for the president. That seems like a terrible idea. Maybe they could count it and then give the results kind of thing. I don't know. There is a pact gaining support of states pledging all of their electoral votes will go to the candidate that gets the most votes nationally. It is set to trigger when enough states join for 270 votes. Yeah, sure. That's a thing. Sure. Yeah. And that would actually be good because it would stop gerrymandering as well. We've heard a lot about, extreme gerrymandering. And that would stop that as well. So it doesn't seem like a bad idea to me. We have the tech to implement direct democracy. Absolutely we do. Direct democracy was for I think it was Bangladesh. They did it over Discord. If Discord can pull off direct democracy, then you definitely have the tech to do it in America. It's just the question is always and has always been, okay, you've got a group of people that counts the votes. And then the question is, who watches the watchman? Who watches the people who watches the votes? Like, who controls this? And so you can have a group that watches them, but who watches them. It's always a problem. Now, distribution of that thing. I mean, in Australia, we have an independent, the Australian Electoral Commission, and that's an independent body from the government. It's funded by the government, but it doesn't answer to the government. And it's like a non-profit who is the only reason they exist is to provide exact, results for elections. That is their only mandate. And all of the parties get access to their information. All of them do. So if something, fucky-wucky is going on, they can, someone's going to point it out. But that's not perfect, right? That's not perfect. But, having it separated from the government is a really good idea. A really good idea. I don't know if that would work in the US. You guys don't seem to have a tradition of independent bodies that answer to nobody but the people. You don't seem to have that tradition. We have things like ombudsmen who investigate companies and institutions but aren't part of that landscape. They're not part of institutional landscape. They're kind of appointed by the Crown, but they don't answer to them, which is a really weird situation. I'll continue to vote for the party that will sit back and watch me die rather than the party that is actively trying to kill me. Yeah, and that is a thing. Oof. Cinnamon nutmeg? Are you guys making me hungry again? Why do you do this? Vote Majestic for Supreme Oppressor? What? Good start is getting rid of Citizens United. Yeah, I don't know why that exists. I think at a fundamental level, I've been thinking about this a lot, and it may seem obvious to everybody, but I've really been racking my head about this a lot. And I am saddened by the corporate world. I'm saddened by where corporations are going. I think that corporations and the corporate structure need to work for stakeholders instead of just shareholders. So if you're unfamiliar with the terminology, a shareholder is somebody who has some sort of ownership of that company, right? So they own shares. Shares are investments into the company. Essentially, they own a percentage or a piece of that company or that corporation. Stakeholders are everybody else. Stakeholders are anybody the company affects. So if you are a cereal company, your shareholders are the ones that own the company. They have shares in the company. They get dividends based upon the company's profit. Stakeholders are the people buying your cereal, the farmers who are producing the grain for the cereal, the people affected by your advertising. Everybody in society, for some corporations, are the stakeholders. We have a stake in how the company is going, and being part of the economy, every single company their stakeholders are everybody else who doesn't have and the shareholders can also be stakeholders. Obviously they are, because they have a stake in how the company goes. And I think that companies are losing that idea that they are working for the stakeholders as well as the shareholders. That they have arrived at a position where only our shareholders matter. That is it. And I think that is a mistake. I think that corporate interests were supposed to be that the corporations, they were working for the people. They had a clear set responsibility to the people for providing goods and services. And I think that is what has been lost. That's the ingredient that seems to have fallen by the wayside. And now it seems like they serve their shareholders and nobody else. And that is tragic. It's tragic. I don't know how to overcome that. I don't know how to... that there seems to be no mechanism for holding a a corporation or company accountable when it has failed its duty to the civilization that supports it. Because a fine just ain't it, Chief. It ain't it. What I would like to see is a company that, like some form of legislation, that when a company has betrayed to a significant degree the interests of the people of the society or the country, the nation, the people, that it immediately gets taken, and those it can be either nationalized, the shareholders paid out, and then resold to people that will uphold the dignity of the mission of that company. Because I don't think companies are there to profit shareholders. They are there to serve the public. And I think that's what's missing. Anyway, tangent. Anti-trans Dems have been primaried like crazy this year. Yeah. Yes, he is an independent technically, but he is associated with the Democratic Party. He, his presidency had to go through Democratic Party. I think they shafted him. I think they did themselves a huge disservice going with Hillary instead of Bernie. Yeah. Whooping cough is back. No. Oh, come on. That will kill infants. It will. Like, that is whooping cough is no joke. It's no damn joke. Yeah, I think ivermectin will do that as well. Look, I'm not gonna add to that. I'm not gonna add to that. Iodine, dang. You know what? I'll tell you a story. My dad was a tough dude. Right? Like, I no joke, he was a tough man. Australians historically have had this, we are a tough people. Like, very, very hard to put down. We'll keep going through the most ridiculous circumstances. So my dad once put a circular saw. He was basically using a circular saw. He was an electrician. He was using it on a wall. He slipped and put a circular saw into his leg. So imagine a circular saw used for cutting through brick, going into your leg and making a massive gash. Instead of going to the hospital, he put iodine on it and got back to work. Like, seriously, the man was insane. Now, my family is known for a large amount of pain tolerance, but that is stupid ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. One of the jobs the Electoral College is prevent people like Trump from being elected. The Founding Fathers wanted the college to be a final check that the candidate was qualified. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not doing its job then. And I don't know why it would. I don't know why they would prevent someone like Trump. If Trump has this stranglehold over who gets in around the states, I don't know how that would do that. I really don't know. Yeah. Yes, don't drink kerosene. Not good. That's just... Wow. I provided security services for the ombudsman. Okay, cool. I don't know what there's just... Usually we have different ombudsmen for different places, like health insurance ombudsman, communications ombudsman, all kinds of different ones. I'm sorry, Purple. I'm sorry. It's my fault. Blame me. Blame me. It's my fault. My phone is too hot. Probably battery problem. Battery problem. Please don't explode your phone. That's not cool. Yes. So unregulated capitalism, it only winds up at one place. Yes. No, I got you. It has to be, the government has to be the bulwark against unregulated capitalism, and it is failing. It's failing. Like, it really is. Corporations in the US only work for the shareholder dividend for the next quarter. This drive screen promotes short-term thinking. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'll give it to Elon Musk, right? Like, Elon Musk has gone nuts, but at least he didn't think short-term. You know, like, tangent. Tangent. Yes. Polite man who has been on the beach all day. No, that's tangent. Yes, yes, measles is back. It's silly. It's terrible. Yeah. I did that with a chainsaw cutting emergency fire break. Oh dang. Well, modern chainsaws they'll go off as soon as something sort of touches the blade. It isn't too bad. It's really funny because like people juggling chainsaws, it's not that dangerous. It's not that dangerous because it's got a throttle and the chain stops if it nicks something. Yeah. No, I get you guys. It's disheartening, but I don't think burning the system to the ground is going to get you the result that you want. Generally, when civilizations collapse, it is the most powerful and the one with the most force, you know, physical force that takes control. So I don't think that is really a solution. I disagree with what's his name? I can't forget the guy. I've forgotten the guy's name. There is a commentator that says, "Hey, don't vote for everybody. The system should come down." No, I disagree. I disagree. I think that so many people are going to be um, so many people are going to be harmed that you know I think that it's not worth it. Hassan, yeah, Hassan. I think that Hassan is sort of. I get why he's saying he's making the bet that, hey, the system collapses, the people will take control again, then we can set up a better system. I totally understand where he's coming from. I think that is perhaps a naive way to look at some of the expected consequences of that happening. I think that there isn't a guarantee that the people will be in a better position after that. I think that it is entirely possible that that a system collapse then just has the people with the most military might taking control, and that would be a deplorable situation. I think that the harm that it will do to people, I think a better solution is to reform the system. I don't think that this collapse of the system is going to be good short term for anybody, and long term it may be fantastic, but that is not guaranteed. I think that is not guaranteed, and I would be hesitant to place that bet. I would be hesitant. I don't think it's a good solution. I just I think that the system is salvageable. We just need the will to do so. And I'm including my own as that. Like, my own system has got to be what I'm worried most about in Australia is, unlike the Constitution in America, the Constitution in Australia is very vague. And I think that eventually there will be someone to take advantage of that vague nature of the Australian Constitution. Australia's got this attitude of, well, the Constitution, if we have any problems, we'll check it, but it doesn't really matter because we know what we're doing. And I think that's a mistake, especially in sort of today's days of populism. I think that having clear and unambiguous rules about people's rights, I think it's a mistake not to have that. I think it is a problem that our Constitution is so so lame. It's a lame. Like, our constitution's terrible. Like, it is the worst constitution ever. It's not great. It's not great. And I wish there was certain things in there that were enshrined in the Constitution that aren't there. Yeah, I think they did make it vague on purpose. I think it was a mistake. I think they envisioned that nobody like, Trump would come along that would go, oh, I could interpret the Constitution like this. I think that people underestimated just how fucking stupid the people of the countries can get. Just saying. Just saying. Oh, are you rating me, Kip? Hey, Kip. Hey, it was great to be on Bad Science Sunday. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Dr. Kip was on there. Absolutely amazing. Taught me some fantastic stuff. Some fantastic stuff about Nephilim and the Old Testament, as well a little bit about the New and Revelation. So that was really good. So thanks, Kip. You are a champ. Yeah. Shortest constitution I know is try not to be a dick, eh? Well, no, it's complicated. It's complicated because it still assigns all of the armed forces to the crown. The crown being the monarchy of England, which is a problem, right? We understand this as symbolic, but that's a problem that's in your constitution. We still have, like, for instance, the prime minister is not in the constitution. Technically, that could be taken away, right? It could be a problem. It is this sort of, it is this saying in Australia that convention is stronger than law, that the way we do things is how we want to do them rather than what's written on a piece of paper. And for a colony of convicts, that's kind of appropriate, I guess. But I think that it could be taken advantage of in the future and has been taken advantage of in the past, right? The Queen's representative has fired the Prime Minister, right? So the Governor-General is really a figurehead right up until the point where he booted out the leader of the country. And so he didn't last long and he got replaced within 2 seconds, and it was an absolute debacle that people said, oh, that won't happen again. But I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. I think that if one thing... if there's one thing that Trump has taught me, it is there is no lower limit to the stupidity of people and the things people will do for power. I think that, hey, there will be someone to come along that will ignore or pervert the Australian way of thinking about what it means to be Australian. And I mean, they will probably be absolutely in trouble afterwards, but that won't stop them from doing the damage. And I think that's something that Trump has also taught us, that if someone starts to do damage, you need a mechanism for getting rid of them, like a reliable mechanism for getting rid of them. Because, the amount of damage that's been done is probably going to take a generation to fix, if at all. It's wild, right? At least the Commonwealth countries have a mechanism for removing an absolute nightmare from the system. We changed the system before. We didn't require a full collapse. We just called a constitutional convention. We can do that again anytime we get enough people who remember that we can. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that entails, whether you need, a supermajority or not. I know that you need a supermajority to change the Constitution. But yeah, it has been done. So it just, we don't have the political will, I guess. The concept of corporation evolves in stages. Ancient Roman and Indian guilds functioned as Erdl Collective. Yeah, modern commercial corporation became... Yes, and the Dutch East India Company did all kinds of horrendous things. And limited liability, I mean, I want to talk about that at some point, because limited liability is limited liability, I think that is a horrendous thing. I don't think there should be limited liability. I really don't think so. I think that, so if you're unfamiliar, limited liability basically protects, if you work in a company, it protects your personal resources from having civil action rather than the company's, right? So if you're a delivery driver and you do something wrong in your job, it means you can't be sued directly. You have to sue the company. And in a way it's good, but in a way it allows people who run the company to do the worst stuff, and they can't be held accountable because they are just working for the best interests of the company. You've got to go after the company, not the people that own it. So I think that in a way, limited liability is a real problem, because it means that the company executives can do things that they wouldn't do in their personal lives because of the ramifications, while using the company as a shield, that they won't be affected. I think it's a big problem. I think it's a big problem. So yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm not an expert on corporate law, not a lawyer, never claimed to be, but I have issues with limited liability. I have issues. Hey, Megan Fox, good to see you. Yeah. Well, there was a great film called The Corporation, which was a documentary that sort of postulated, corporations are sort of, if they're people, what kind of people they are. Really fascinating. But I'm going to call it here. I hope you've had fun. I've had a lot of fun. I've had a lot of tangents. I stand by my tangents. I will always do them. I thank you so much for coming along. There are readerships available. We gave some out. Thank you so much to Stop the Stupidity for donating a whole bunch of them. Really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed our analysis of God's actions in the Old Testament. Apparently he is a colossal arsehole. That's what the crowd says, not my words. But hey, I have a tendency to agree. I think any God allowing all of the people to do the horrendous things they're doing without stopping them, without interfering, basically just rewarding them afterwards, really needs a reality check on what he's doing, because these things are not great. They're not great. And for this one, Joseph, I do not understand why Joseph is perfectly willing to inflict upon others the trauma he went through. And I am baffled as to why Christendom or Christians or believers in general hold this guy up as a great guy. I don't understand. He's very proficient, very efficient at what he does. He's very good at organizing. He is pretty terrible to people in general. I'm sorry, he just is. But somehow he's the hero of the story, even though he's traumatizing everybody in the same way he was traumatized. You'd think he would have known how much anguish that causes, but apparently, hey, pay it forward, right? If you're traumatized, just traumatize somebody else. That'll fix everything for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget, be kind to yourself. We're not able to change things by ourselves. We're not able to make any difference by ourselves. But we should talk about this. We should have a talk about how it's going, how we feel about it, what our perception is. Part of me worries that the people up the top do not see the perceptions of the people at the bottom of the rungs. The upper class don't see what the lower class are going through, and they don't listen to them. I think that any representative not stopping to talk with somebody that wants to talk to them is doing a disservice. I think they all should. And we need to talk about what's going on, how it's going wrong, because you can never see what the label on the jar says from the inside. You can never, when you're in the thick of it, you can never see what is going on. That is why we need to bounce things off people external, because we can never see what's going on in the thick of it. We have to get different perspectives. But but be kind to others. You know, it's not this problem of right-wing politics. It's not just religion's fault, and that's it. And I know as an atheist, I'm expected to go religion all bad. It's not just religion's fault. It's not just corporations' fault. It's not just, you know, the rich's. There is a systematic problem here that is multifaceted, and it's very easy to just blame one segment, right? Just blame these people. It's the Christians' fault. No, it's not. No. We've got to be realistic and analyze and use our facilities to analyze the problem, not just blame somebody. That's how the US got to this mess in the first place. They blamed immigrants and the woke for everything, and it's not going to be fixed by addressing those two things because they didn't cause the problems. But anyway, take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody. Lots of love.
To what new horizons can we look now? Where are tomorrow's opportunities? The frontiers of the future are not on any map. But now, what's ahead of us?